many of us at this dais as regular session number 46. So I'll begin the opening session and ask our friend Sue Klotz to lead us in the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance, please. Always good to see you, my dear.
Would you pray with me? Father God, we come to you tonight to thank you for the blessings you have given us. We are here tonight to discuss and make decisions for our city and all who live here. We ask that you are with us and guide us in that endeavor. We ask for safe travel home as everyone goes home after the meeting tonight, to their families and their friends. We ask this all in your name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Alderman Emerson.
Here.
Alderman Melson.
Here.
Alderman Kramer.
Here.
Alderman Ertz.
Here.
Alderman Jason Green.
Here.
Alderman Josh Green.
Here.
Alderman Van Buskert.
Here.
Alderman Azier.
Here.
Alderman Lightfoot.
Excused.
Alderman Mock.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum with that. This time I'll call upon anyone in the public that would like to address the Board of Aldermen on issues that are within our control. Public comment session. Oh. I do have some people that signed up. We're going to start with Nelson Mann, please. Did I pronounce that correctly? Are you here for one of the hearings? Okay.
Oh, yes.
And Jim also? Gary Kanabe? About, is it Kirk Miles?
Same thing.
Same thing. And John Wiley. All right, there you go. Would anyone else in the audience like to address the board at this time? Okay, we will move on to communication from the mayor. Again, it's I was able to deliver the State of the City address this past week. I will tell you that while I was probably the most relaxed I've been in 7 previous times of giving that, it still was a very humble moment for me. A lot has happened in this great city of ours in the last 8 years. A lot that we all together have put together to make it a better place. People on this dais, certainly the department managers, all of the executive staff that we have, and the citizens for supporting us and the many commissions and committees that they sit on, have all been helpful to us to get to a better place. And I'm very proud of what we have done together. I also look forward to many more things to happen in this great city of ours in the years to come. So with that, while I was humbled, I'm still certainly very proud of what we have done, and we should celebrate where we are today. Including that, I'll go to the communication with the city administrator, please.
Good evening, Mayor Bauer, Board of Aldermen. For the agenda tonight, I have a couple of corrections. In the legislative session, the regular agenda, item number 3 will be removed. Also, under item number 4, resolution, point of contact, Jim Melvin, Interim Public Works Director, removed and replaced by John Benson as Development and Public Affairs Director. There are, if you see a couple of folks at City Hall for the next few weeks, they are the auditors, will be with us from tomorrow until they finish their work. It may take 3 to 4 weeks. Again, during the winter weather operation over the weekend, excellent job done by our Public Works wonderful to see a demarcation clearly as you go from city of Raytown to any other neighboring community. Again, kudos to everyone who was involved in that operation, and it's one of the best. Also, just to let you know that we are re-advertising the position of the Public Works Director that hit the media recently. It was always on the city's website, and we have started receiving some resumes on that already. Tonight, you will also be voting on policy and procedure guidelines on advertising in the city's newsletter. It is very similar to what we can broadcast on Channel 7 that would need your blessing. Also, a letter has been sent to the mill and overlay contractor. If you recall, in December 23rd, as per request from the contractor, we issued a stop work order till March 1st. And so yesterday, March 2nd, that stop work order was removed, and contractors were given instruction to finish the project as soon as the weather is permissible. We do expect the weather to be near or above 50 degrees starting from this Friday or weekend till several days in the future. There are a lot of activities going on at the Jefferson City. Number of bills that has interest or impact on our city that we are keeping eye on. I also want to let you all know that there is a education session during the Thursday's Planning and Zoning Board meeting that city attorney will be giving a presentation about what to expect, what to watch for, and what kind of information would be needed. As after the election in April, we will have a new liaison to the P&Z board. Therefore, if you have a time and you can attend, that would be a session worth attending. Put on the projector? All right, I just thought I'll keep going on until they figure it out, but I guess they are ready to go, so that I will conclude my report.
Thank you, sir. We'll go to committee reports. I'll start on my right. Mr. Green.
Nothing to report this time.
Mr. Kramer.
Nothing to report.
Mr. Green.
Nothing to report.
Ms. Frazier. Ms. Melson. Oh. Ms. Emerson.
I just want to say we're all proud of our street crews because they did a marvelous job again. And we know that it's dangerous out there, and we appreciate all they do.
Awesome committee report. Mr. Ertz.
Police Pension Board will meet at 8 o'clock tomorrow downstairs.
Mr. Van Buskirk.
Nothing this evening, sir.
Pro Tem, Mr. Stephen Mock.
Okay, I also want to thank Public Works for outstanding snow removal again. Also, plus, I've got quite a bit of other things to get through with your wood. We're only about a month before Easter, so we've got the 5th annual egg extravaganza Saturday, April 4th. So first off, it starts at 10 o'clock in the morning with the vintage car and truck show. 11 o'clock will be the Raytown Community Parade. Hope you all can be out there for that too, please. 12 o'clock will be story time with the mayor. Get that one? Story time? No, forget it. 12:30, Dachshund Dash and Dog Costume Contest. 12:30 games for all children on the green space. There will be an egg hunt at 1 o'clock. Under 6 years at that time. At 1:15 will be 7 to 12 years. Be food, vendors, Coco the parrot, face painting, and the bunny will be there. You can pre-order your T-shirts for the extravaganza, egg extravaganza that before by going to their website. This year will be honoring Blair Shanahan Lane, so please bring your socks that day for Blair socks. Okay? And one other thing, there is a beautiful baby contest that will be starting that day and will go on until we finish up April 10th, and that time they will choose the beautiful baby. And one more thing, with spring upon us, please keep Raytown clean. Thank you.
That's a committee report. Thank you, sir. All right. That concludes that. We're going to go into our study session. I ask, this is regarding the Neighborhood Revitalization Program, and John Benson, excuse me, our Development and Public Affairs Director, will lead that discussion.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, board members. Tonight, as you just mentioned, tonight I have a presentation about our Neighborhood Revitalization Program. Tonight's presentation, though, is going to be a little different than previous presentations I've given to you regarding the city's Neighborhood Revitalization Program. Each of the last 2 years in your annual goal-setting session, neighborhood revitalization is, you've identified neighborhood revitalization as a priority. And tonight I want to talk about an aspect along that priority, but a little bit different slant to it, if you will. Tonight, the aspect I'm talking about is about the, excuse me, the demographic changes, which focuses on our residents and who they are and are becoming, and what their needs and desires are as they relate to our neighborhoods. This aspect is important because demographics shape our the human side, or our resident dimension, which in turn has a direct impact and shapes and drives the physical attributes of our neighborhoods. The demographic trends I'll walk through relate to, or we'll talk about, what people care about, the changing demographics and related to age, what our residents want and what they need. There's 3 parts to the presentation. The first part being demographic trends that are occurring in Raytown, the state of Missouri, and the U.S. The second part is how these trends will influence our neighborhoods, or are influencing our neighborhoods, and will set the stage for the future of our community. And then the third part is a series of a presentation about a series of briefing and brainstorming sessions that are planned to be held over the next few months. Through those sessions, we'll talk about what we can do as a community to ensure our neighborhoods remain strong or strengthened. So the first part is an overview of the demographic trends. In 2011, the baby boomers started retiring beginning at age 65. And today, approximately 10,000 baby boomers turn 65 every day. And that's projected to continue through 2030. Put that show you a little bit of that graphically. The state of Missouri, the map on the left-hand side are the counties in the state. The blue, or the darker the shade of blue, the less percentage of the younger their population, if you will. Excuse me, I reversed that. The darker the shade, the more seniors they have. The lighter the shade, the less they have. I apologize, I had it right the first time. The lighter the shade, the more seniors they have. On the map on the right is 2030. As you can see, the counties in yellow will be over 25% of their population or greater will be 65 years of age or older. So it shows how the state of Missouri is aging, or will age over the next 20 years. This next map I have is in relation to the Kansas City metropolitan area by county, at the county level. I'm not going to go through each color line to identify which each line relates to, but basically the gist of this is from 2000 on the left to 2030 on each county, they're all going up in the age or percentage of population over the age of 65. Jackson County is a point of reference on the left-hand side of the graph. Apologize. The light blue line on the top on the left is Jackson County. As you can see, it will continue to increase Between 2020 and 2030, Johnson County, Kansas surpasses Jackson County, but Jackson County will continue to have the largest percentage of population over the age of 65 in the metro area. So bringing that down to the city of Raytown's level, this graphic shows the ages from 50 and above. The column on the left-hand side, or in the gray, is our 2010 population in Raytown by age cohort. The columns on the right in the orange or reddish orange are 2020 population. So as you can see, our community is getting older as well, and is occurring and will continue to occur. This is a graphic that shows, I'll talk about some terminology, and so I want to kind of define this terminology first. You've heard there's terms being used: millennials, Generation X, baby boomers, and the greatest generation, or otherwise also known as the silent generation. This graphic just shows the age breakdown of those demographic groupings. The greatest generation on the right is 1945 or before. People that were born before 1945. Baby boomers were born between 1946 and 1964. Generation X was born. Generation X persons were born between 65 and 84, and then millennials were born between 85 and 2005. So just to kind of give you a point of reference, and I'll come back to explain why that is important to understand. So I want to go to the second part now, and what do these demographic changes mean for neighborhood revitalization in Raytown? I want to talk about millennials, which again is that youngest cohort between 85 and 2005. They're the children of the baby boomers, and it's a large cohort. It's actually the largest age cohort in the country today at approximately, or just over 28%. It's referred oftentimes, or millennials are oftentimes referred to as the echo boom. These next graphs, and it's not important that you look at necessarily the exact lines, because I'm going to flip through these fairly quick just to give you an idea here of how the demographics are changing. This is nationally. The column or the yellow lines on the left are the male population, and the gray lines on the left are female. But in 1990, this was the age cohort breakdown for male and female in the country. 2000, you can see as the baby boomers are getting older, how the bubble is migrating upward. 2010, where we're basically where we are today, or were a few years ago. 2020, where we're projected to be. 2030, and in 2040, you can see that as the population grows, we're no longer a pyramid, or projected to be a pyramid where there's fewer older people and a lot younger people in the community, in the country. Rather, it's going to be more of a stovepipe configuration where it'll be pretty uniform of all ages. So baby boomers and millennials are the two kind of at the opposite extreme ends of our population cohorts. So some characteristics of the millennials that have been found are are marrying later, they have fewer children than previous generations, and they're more racially and ethnically diverse than earlier generations as well. The baby boomers, in comparison, are active and engaged as they reach retirement age. They're still remaining active, which is a little different than previous generations that became less active. Baby boomers are remaining active. They have a strong desire to stay in existing homes and neighborhoods, and there's an emerging need for transportation options that is being identified. So out of that, there's some commonalities between millennials and the baby boomers, even though they're at different age extremes, if you will. There's a lot of similarities. They both are looking for affordable housing that requires less upkeep, maintenance-free, for instance. They want walkability aspects. They want mixed-use development because that ties back into the walkability, being able to walk to other residences, friends, or shopping or work. They also look for the transportation options that I mentioned, connection to the neighbors, but they're also looking for an opportunity to make a difference in their community and be involved in the community. So basically, that it's cities that work across the lifespan and plans it services, and that this is what leads into our neighborhoods and our community of our residents and how to keep them involved. Last year, we had a task force that was appointed by the mayor that worked on looking at these issues or aspects that make a community livable for all ages. Our task force included Clarice Titus, Ken Blom, Ray Letterman, Mary Jane Van Buskirk, and then city staff, which was Andy Knoll, Brenda Gustafson, and myself. Out of that group, Raytown was one of 4 communities in the metro area, along with Prairie Village, Gladstone, and Mission, Kansas, that had task force that looked at these issues. These task forces from each of the communities developed, and then checked a list of aspects that make their community more livable for all ages. Some of these ideas are on the board, or excuse me, are projected onto the wall. Public spaces, transportation, mobility, housing and commercial development, social inclusion, communication and participation, I mentioned, civic participation, and as well as community and health services. So what we're wanting to do as part of our neighborhood revitalization is build on that effort of our task force and the other work of the other communities as well, and delve further into a community discussion on these ideas or aspects that were identified. As part of that, we've grouped these into different discussions. In April, we're looking to hold a discussion on public outdoor space and buildings, followed by, in May, housing and commercial development, as well as transportation. And in June, session on social inclusion, communication, social and civic participation. And then at the end of that, we'll bring back information that was discussed and any recommendations back to you, and have a presentation that we're looking at in July of next year to kind of report back and present that information back to you. The groups we've preliminarily identified to participate in each of these discussions are the Public Works Department, Parks and Recreation Department, as well as staff from the Development and Public Affairs Department, as well as others. And that's in regards to the public outdoor spaces and buildings. In regards to housing and commercial development, the Planning and Zoning Commission, Habitat for Humanity, Builders Development Corporation, local realtors, local developers, as well as staff from the Development and Public Affairs Department. Transportation, again, Public Works Department, the Truman Heartland Community Foundation, Mobility and Transportation Committee members, as well as others. And then social inclusion, communication, social and civic participation, where we've identified the Shepherd Center of Raytown, Human Relations Commission, the Council on Aging, the Chamber of Commerce, as well as Development and Public Affairs Department again. So with that, I know I kind of breezed through a lot of information there, but if there are any questions or comments, I'd be happy to answer the questions. Otherwise, I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Questions? Ms. Melson?
Well, I'm glad to see this is finally coming forward, because I've also worked on this for the past 3 years, and especially on the toolkit and the executive summary, there was a lot of work on that done, especially with the Minnemeca Regional Council. The aspect of the aging population coming to 2030 is going to need some action, and Raytown's going to have to get on board. It's coming. Everybody knows it's coming, but the aspect also with one of these, like with transportation, it's a huge issue. It's something that when somebody takes your keys away and you don't have another option, you go into that social isolation, the decrease of health care, and it becomes a huge problem, not only for that individual, but also for the community. And then, I'm glad to see these others are becoming involved with that. Shepherd Center of Raytown for a long time has been involved with older adults in the community and can offer a lot of information. There is a lot of information that can be found, especially in the idea list, and that's also being promoted through the First Suburbs Coalition, which I co-chair. And that's also being interspersed with the 17 first ring suburbs of Kansas City. So this is something that I've worked on for a long time, continue to work on, because not only for the transportation issues, but for the issues for older adults, but also for the one that's, is going to come to play, which is the universal design, the housing issue, and wanting to stay in your house. But how are you going to do that when it's 2 stories and you don't like stairs anymore? So I think that Raytown's got an opportunity to come to the forefront, and that's why I look forward to these brainstorming sessions to get input on how we can do this and how we can address the issues, not only for the older adults that still want to stay here, but also for the millennials that want to come to Raytown and to live here and for the future. So I look forward to that and continue to work on that.
Other questions or comments? Mr. Azure?
What I would add to that is that, to me, this isn't just an opportunity, it's really a must, because I think we need to tailor this community to the needs of the future, and at the same time raise property values. I think they go hand in hand because they are in community planning. And so this is, without going into a long dissertation about this, this is what our staff does. I think John does a very good job with it. It's, I think, critical that we have the staff that's able to do this so that we do map out a clear plan and we know what we're doing, why we're doing it, and what we are targeting. So I think it's a very good study. It's a good kickoff. Thank you.
Mr. Ertz?
Yes, I think it does great for what we have in Raytown, which is a lot of single-story affordable housing that I know realtors would love to pair up with a lot of people to. I could see a second coming for Raytown with this generation coming. So, thank you.
Any other discussion? John, thank you for your presentation. Anything else you'd like to add?
Just 2 quick things to follow up on the comments regarding housing. I read an article last week that I found very interesting, that millennials and baby boomers are actually looking for the exact same type of housing, and that is ranch homes, which Raytown has a lot of. And so it's about rehab and making sure those homes are in good condition, but there's a market there for that, and that's kind of what we need to take advantage of. I'd also like, as I mentioned, I've talked to a lot of different groups that we've identified. We have not actually sent out invitations yet to them, but I'd also like to invite any of you to attend those sessions, and we will make you aware of when and where those will be held. So if you're interested and available to attend, by all means, you're invited to attend those and participate in that discussion. And lastly, I'd just like to thank you for your kind words for this effort, because in the past, my presentations regarding neighborhood revitalization have focused heavily on the physical attributes of our neighborhoods, our housing, and that. This is equally a very important part, and it's not that we haven't ignored it. I just haven't presented that information other than when our task force was put together last year and they started looking into it. And this is, as Charlotte said, a follow-up to that. It builds off of that. So thank you for your time.
Very good. Thank you, John. Mr. Rager?
Just to add one more thing, I was really pleasantly surprised 4 years ago when I knocked on doors how many young people are moving to our community from outside of Raytown. They're coming even from Blue Springs, Shawnee Mission, Olathe, because we have affordable property here. They can qualify for a loan, and they are fixing those houses up. So, this is just by attracting those kinds of people to our city, we can see many improvements just along that line. Thanks.
Very good. John, again, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
We'll move now, we'll move now to the legislative session. We've got the consent agenda item next. There are 2 items on the consent agenda. Would anyone on the board like to remove either one of those items and treat them separately? Mr. Mock? Mr. Mock moves approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Kramer. Discussion before we vote. Call the vote on that, please.
Alderman Mock,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderman Ertz,
Yes.
Alderman Jason Green,
Yes.
Alderman Van Buskirk,
Yes.
Alderman Emerson,
Yes.
Alderman Josh Green,
Yes.
Alderman Melson,
Yes.
Alderman Azier,
I want to thank the board for approving my nomination of Jerome Barnes tonight. We all know Jerome is involved with the school district, but is also stepping up now to be involved with the city, representing us on the University of Missouri Extension Council. So thank you, Jerome. Regular agenda at this time. I ask the clerk to perform the reading on item number 2, please.
a resolution approving a newsletter advertisement policy for the city of Raytown, Missouri.
Ms. Gustafson, or as Siri calls you, Ms. Gustafson, on my handheld device.
Swedish or German.
Yeah. Would you like to address this item, please?
We have decided to go to, per your request, to 4 times a year for the newsletter, of sending it out because it was so well received. But there's also a cost along with that. And so we're looking at doing more advertising. The city itself cannot accept monies for advertising within the newsletter. And so I did an analysis with other cities that actually do advertising in their newsletters. And this resolution actually reflects a combination of many cities that do this. And the way we're doing this is, rather than go through the city, it'll go through a Raytown Community Betterment Fund at the Truman Heartland Community Foundation. They'll hold the money for us, and then they will actually, all the advertising monies will go in there, and then the bills will be paid from there. We'll still control what goes into the newsletter here at the city, and then we'll work with the Betterment Foundation. They can override anyone who is doing things that don't adhere to the policy that we're looking at tonight.
Questions of Brenda? Ms. Emerson?
I'm sorry. On B, the advertising general, under number 1, your last sentence, the expectation, is that expectation or exception?
Well, what I was referring to, and this is the expectation, that we would advertise public events over other advertising in the newsletter.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Ms. Melson?
Whoa.
Easy.
How much money is currently in the Raytown Community Betterment Fund? Do you know?
I don't have an exact figure. I could get that for you, but I don't have an exact figure right now.
Okay, and the reason I ask is I know I checked a couple of years ago, and there was, I think, under 30 grand or something, and I think that was started way back when we did Raytown Reaching for Tomorrow kind of thing. So any money that's collected for the newsletter, the bills will be paid out of that money, not what is the current money in there for the Raytown. Because there was other guidelines, I recall, for that original monies.
Right, and I have discussed that with Liz McClure
Yeah.
at Truman Heartland, and she said that that's a clear, there's a clear line of how we would do, how they would do that.
Of keeping kind of the money
keeping the money
separate.
separate.
So any of the ads and the cost for the newsletters would only come out of that ad money. Okay. Gotta run through my things here. So the first priority for the newsletter would be given to Raytown business or Raytown information, City of Raytown information. And then whatever other space is available, those spaces would be sold for upcoming events or basic ads.
Actually, the events that are held in Raytown would actually supersede commercial.
Okay,
That's
yeah.
where we say the expectation is that we would promote public events within Raytown first, but we also are cognizant that we need to pay for the newsletter, and so, but it has to be a commercial business
Okay.
And Raytown will actually be given preference, Raytown businesses. We may accept money for advertising if we have the space for businesses outside of Raytown, if no Raytown businesses want that space.
Okay. And then a couple of places through here, it says, like submit an application to the RCBF or his or her designee. Who would that designee be?
That's just set up by the mayor.
Okay. Oh, it's decided by the mayor, is that what you said? Okay.
That's how the RCBF is set up, that all the designees are appointed by the mayor.
Oh, appointed, okay.
Actually, Charlotte, I believe you're on that. Right now, you're listed on that, one of the designees on that.
I am? Oh, surprise. Okay. Okay. I think that was all my questions for right now.
Mr. Green?
It says up here, the city's newsletter shall only accept commercial advertisements. What about nonprofits?
If you look further down, it actually indicates that the expectation of the rule is that we will also accept nonprofits, and that actually, if it's something that is sponsored by the city as well, or the city deems it important to the business of Raytown, it'll supersede.
Okay, I see. Okay, the reason I thought that is because there's a section, obviously, non-political or religious, but, sometimes you have organizations that are religious in nature, not necessarily, they're promoting it in a different way, not an overt way, but, are doing things for the community good in terms of, whether it be some sort of service or, whether it be monetary or otherwise. And I was just kind of interested.
Yes, we're just
in hearing
looking
that.
at religious messages.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure on that, like in terms of organizations that may have like food drives or things like that. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Ertz?
Thank you. To go a little farther with Alderman Green, there was, so our Martin Luther King celebration could be advertised.
Yes, and
Absolutely.
it's co-sponsored by the city anyway, the city
Okay,
sponsors
but
it.
events like that.
But something, I think like Hope Network, who is looking for help on they did a carnival, a citywide carnival, that could be in there.
Very good. This sounds like a great idea, and Truman Heartland is a fantastic organization
It is.
also, so that sounds very good. I'd make a motion to approve.
Motion is made by Mr. Ertz, seconded by Ms. Melson for approval. We're still in discussion. Mr. Mock?
Excuse me, thank you. Now, on a church on, they're advertising. Can they still advertise the times they're open, isn't that?
That would not,
They cannot do that. Okay. All right. Okay, that's the only question I have.
Mr. Van Buskirk?
Who made that determination?
that's, the determination was made by looking at 5 other cities. None of them allowed religious organizations to actually promote their church services or promote religious messages. And so some of those has been vetted, and I also worked with Joe Willerth on this, and and he looked at it as well. But that's where we came up with that decision, is looking at other cities.
Yeah, I can certainly see a difference between religious messages and maybe just advertising times of services or special events that a church might be having. We have how many church congregations in our area, Mr. Mayor? You mentioned in
Close to 60 in the...
close to
yeah,
60 in our community that he mentioned in his address to us the other day. So I think that's excluding a large portion of our community, and certainly I have a problem with not being able to do that. So that was our determination, not Truman Heartland, that's
No,
us. It's
that came from an analysis of other cities
from staff.
that have
So
already done this.
we feel like they know better what we need to do for Raytown than we do, I guess, huh?
Well, I think this is a suggestion brought forward by the staff, not a determination, a suggestion for us to act.
Right.
It is part of the resolution, though.
And it's, yeah, if you'd like to.
Yes, that is part of resolution, and staff also reviewed it, and that's what we brought it to your attention. And ultimate decision is the governing body. This is a procedural guidelines, that's what it is. And if the demand is such and the need is such, it can always be changed. And so there are, I think the provision that I would ask you to focus on is not what can be included, but what is not allowed. And that's where, there is a provision in the procedure and guidelines what cannot be allowed in this newsletter.
Right,
And that's, inclusion is, you can always include stuff, but what is not allowed is what I would ask you to focus on.
I do have concerns about it because, like I say, there seems to be a huge difference between religious messages, and just possibly area churches
Correct.
doing advertising there, and that concerns me.
So if we get 20 churches who wants to advertise in our newsletter, we'll bring it forward to you and said, okay, maybe we want to, modify the procedure guidelines that we have.
If you'd be willing to do that, staff would be willing to do that, then
Yeah.
I will support it. Otherwise,
It's
I
better to
couldn't.
have a guideline than ad hoc and you have no idea what to allow, what not to allow. So this is a first step, saying, okay, this is what we are proposing, and then it can always be modified.
And there are certainly things you have there that would not be allowed that I
That
think
is
is very
correct,
appropriate.
and that's why I wanted to make sure that those things are not allowed.
Certainly. All right. Thank you.
Okay, back to Mr. Green.
Thank you. Joe, actually, I was just going to ask you because religion's kind of come up a few times on here. I just wanted to know if we did allow like hours of operation advertisements from churches eventually, if we'd be perfectly legal there, because I know the law at the federal level changes all the time with that. So I just didn't know if you had an opinion on that matter in terms of legality.
I would like to have an opportunity to research it further before we make a final determination on that. I would note to you it's not the function of government to promote religion, and so community-based, I understood, and probably staying out of it because you don't want to be picking and choosing across the board which religions are advertising.
Mm-hmm.
So the general policy of not having them, I thought, was a safer one than, but if we're going to go one that's going to be more inclusive, I will need to look at it.
Okay. I was just concerned about the legality of it, and last thing I wanted is the city to get sued or something.
Well, I am too, and that's why I say.
Yeah, thanks.
Mr. Kramer.
I'm in line with what Mr. Van Buskirk said, and in regards to legality, I know the issue of prayer came up in our invocations, and there was a Supreme Court decision that is a form of free speech, and so I do understand that this community was built strongly on the foundation of faith, and we have two very large churches, mega churches in the Raytown area, as well as, like we said, 58 other. And if it is a paid deal where they paid to advertise in there, I don't see where that would be an issue of the city promoting a particular religion. So I would like to see them have that opportunity. I have my faith. There's faiths I don't agree with, but we do have freedom of religion in this country, not freedom from religion.
Interesting topics. I'm going to go to Mr. Mock and then back to Mr. Van Buskirk. Mr. Mock? Okay. Mr. Van Buskirk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. just want to remind you that endorsement or promotion by the city is one thing, exclusion is something else and a whole nother matter. So I think we need to be careful not to do that. So, thank you.
Mr. Green?
I just wanted a quick clarification. So if this is approved tonight, and Josh alluded to this earlier, can we look at this to see if maybe this can be modified? I mean, I think I heard that earlier. I just want to get that on record, that there's a commitment from staff that we're going to go back and relook at this, because that is something that seems like there's a lot of questions we may not even answer tonight, but I'd really like to see that, because I am inclined to agree with Joe about the freedom of speech, issue on that, and that was my comment earlier about the nonprofits, because, I saw the political religious thing. I understand the politics side, but, and it's obviously a muddled ground, but I'd really feel a lot better supporting this tonight if there was a commitment from staff that we will revisit this to see if we can modify it to maybe fit our community's needs.
And I think as we go forward and see who is wanting to advertise, we always have had the idea that this is just a first step because we've just started doing this, and Mahesh will probably make the commitment, but from a staff position, we're always looking, it's a fluid document, and seeing Joe do a little bit more research too, and see how we can include that, but we'll see who is asking. I will say that like Hope Network, when we went through the Park Foundation, which we're not doing now, but when we did Hope Network through First Baptist, did advertise. So, but it was for their Hope Network for helping some people, lower income people in the city.
Okay, and Joe, I appreciate your candor, willing to look into that. Like you said, you weren't exactly sure on that end, but I just want to hear that option. This can obviously be amended down the road.
Certainly it can be amended. It can be deferred till we have a time to look at it. The third thing I would point out is we're talking about advertising everyone. What did the mayor say? There's 60? That would eat up the entire document, it seems to me, if we're going to permit every one of them to advertise.
If they wish to do that,
They wish to do it.
That's their choice. And I doubt all 60 is going to do that, but, I see your point. I just, again, I think there's some concerns, but I just feel more comfortable with this. If we can get some things set in stone down the road on this, that'd be great.
They're excellent questions. Mr. Treasurer?
I think we also need to remember that we are a city or a public entity, and we just can't discriminate between one group or the other. So what we do has to be legal, and that's part of it says at any time. Like it says Ku Klux Klan and others. So you just can't automatically say we're going to tailor it for a city. It doesn't work like that. It is tailored for the law.
All right, a lot of good discussion. No further discussion on this? Mr. Van Buskirk, one more time.
Just one more comment. Of course, Ku Klux Klan is not a religious organization, but I think we do have some things in here that would prohibit that type of advertising. But I would offer an amendment to this, but I'm not sure exactly what the wording would be. So, yeah, I'm comfortable with staff going back and just taking a look at it later, and with possibly coming back and amending it at a later time.
Some other language, I'd be happy to do that.
Possibly. Thank you.
Mr. Kramer?
My question to my fellow board members, do you want to pass it as is, or do you want to table it and bring it back after we've looked at it? And I think that would probably be the proper thing to do. I'd make a motion.
I'm not hearing any amendments to the motion. So, all right. Plenty of discussion and good discussion. As a practice of this board, as always, we certainly can go back and change any of our ordinances or any of our resolutions by action of this board. So we always have that opportunity, have always had that opportunity.
Well, I made a motion to table that.
Yes. Right. What they're saying down there is there's already a motion on the floor, and there is, and we're going to vote on that motion. If that motion fails, we'll take another motion. So, bingo. Call the vote, please.
If you want to table the matter, motion to table is an appropriate motion now that would take precedence over the main motion, and you could vote on it first. It's not appropriate to table it after it's failed or passed.
Again, I'd make that motion to table it.
I'll second that motion.
Motion made and second to table the motion. Item number 2 to be tabled. Discussion on that.
Is this motion to table is date certain or indefinitely?
Would next meeting give Joe plenty of time to review that, or?
Okay, so motion to table this until March
Date certain
17,
of March
2015.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
correct.
All right, we've got a motion and a second to table this, item number 2, to March 17th, our next regular meeting. Discussion on that motion. Call the vote on that, please.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Alderman Van Buskirk?
Yes.
Alderman Azier?
No.
Alderman Mock?
Yes.
Alderman Jason Green?
Yes.
Alderman Ertz?
No.
Alderman Emerson?
Yes.
Alderman Josh Green?
No.
Alderman Melson?
No.
5-4 vote to table. I still didn't get to vote. All right, we'll table item number 2 until date certain of March 17th. Good discussion. We're skipping item number 3, as was addressed earlier by our city administrator. We'll move to item number 4, and we'll ask John Benson, as our Development and Public Affairs Director, to address item number 4 after, of course, Ms. Henry reads item number 4.
A resolution authorizing and approving a professional services agreement with the Institute for Building Technology and Safety for fiscal year 2014-2015.
Mr. Benson, anything you'd like to add, sir?
Yes, thank you. This is brought about based on an experience we encountered, the Development and Public Affairs Department encountered last year. There was a hailstorm that caused damage to, this is an estimation on my part, over 1,500 homes. It might have been higher than that. I know it was not lower than that. In Raytown, which resulted in our issuance of over 1,400 roofing permits, as well as somewhere north of 500 craftsman licenses and business licenses being issued by our department. That volume of increased workload caused a disruption to just our normal daily routines and workload, and which in turn had an impact on our ability to provide or continue to provide good customer service and timely customer service in some respects. Since then, well, the other part of that is also our building official, in addition to having over 1,400 roofing inspections to do, that does not include the number of times he stopped by homes to tell roofing companies they needed to get a permit and issue stop work orders on. That was probably over 400 homes, on different homes to do. So collectively, that was a large volume of work that came about because of a hailstorm. What we're proposing or bringing before you tonight is an agreement with the Institute for Building Technology and Safety, otherwise known as IBTS, that would help us in the future during unforeseen storm events, or also very large construction projects that exceed our capacity as on a staff level to continue maintaining our normal daily routines and the customer service that we need to provide. Kurt Skoog is here tonight from IBTS. He's in the audience. I talked to him prior to the meeting. He doesn't really have anything else to add unless you have questions that he can answer. He'd be happy to come forward and answer any questions you have. What we're proposing to do is, if you approve this, it would authorize city administrator to enter into an agreement between the City of Raytown and IBTS for services related to permit issuance, plan reviews, and construction inspections on an as-needed basis that the city administrator would determine when an appropriate time or when that would occur. Also, I'd like to note or point out that in the budgetary impact is unknown at this point because we don't know the magnitude of a storm event that would necessitate this and what that the necessary services needed or the length of time those would be needed. Under our current department budget, we do have $8,000 budgeted for planning related services that we could use for part of this if needed, and if assuming those funds are available at the time we need them. Otherwise, at such time, if we don't have the current funds budgeted, we would come back before you at that time to request an amendment to our current budget to cover these costs. And again, at this point, I have no way of knowing or giving you an idea on what those costs would be other than until an event would occur, and then that would allow us to have a better idea on what those costs would be. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. And again, Mr. Skoog is here in the audience if you have any questions for him.
Mr. Van Buskirk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm assuming this would just be, and I think you indicate this, that this would just be in a catastrophic event where we had a massive number of things happening that our staff couldn't handle, correct?
On an as-needed basis, yeah. And it could be another hailstorm or something more catastrophic than that, okay. Yeah. Or just to clarify too, I forget how far, I'm going to estimate 8 to 10 years ago, First Baptist Church of Raytown built the rock on the addition on the back. That was a very, very large construction project. And at that time, we had outsourced the review of those construction plans to an outside entity. This type of contract would allow us, if that type of a scale of a project would come along, we could outsource to this entity as well for that, if and when needed.
Now, I'm curious, I looked through this, there's a lot of fees and it gets rather confusing, but for instance, like an inspection for a roofing job, what would that cost? I couldn't really find that here. And would they handle the permits also? And I guess a reinspection too, as part of that question.
Yeah, yes, they could do the permit issuance, they could do the plan review, they could do the inspections. The cost of the inspection for roofing, I apologize, I don't have that right on my fingertips here, if you'd bear with me a moment. On attachment B of the agreement, it'd be $150 for a re-roof or an inspection, and that's per roof. So,
what about a reinspection if there was a problem and had to go back?
Let me have Mr. Skoog come over to the podium because I think he may be able to answer it more quickly than I would be able to.
One more question for you, John. Yeah. Is there a retainer fee or minimum service fee involved with this? No.
There is not. This is, in effect, what this is an insurance policy for us. If and when we would need these services, like as you mentioned, a catastrophic event, it's available to us, as opposed to having a catastrophic event and then we have to go find somebody and get an agreement in place at that time. This will allow us to react a little more quickly and have it kind of in our back pocket if and when it's ever needed.
Okay.
Thank you. Kurt Skoog, S-K-O-O-G, 600 Broadway, Suite 200, Kansas City, Missouri. Thank you for your question. Yeah, our permit prices include second inspection. So reinspection is included in our fees. You'll see that in some fee lines, if a third inspection is required, there is an additional fee, but a reinspection is included in the pricing.
Thank you.
Other questions the board may have for Mr. Benson or Mr. Skoog while he's still here? Ms. Nelson.
Dang it.
Easy.
I have some more questions. It shows on several of the things here about a mark handling fee. So the Mid-America Regional Council also gets a fee cost for
Yeah, so
your services.
we operate under a MARC program called Shared Services, and the name of this program is Regional Building Department Services. So we offer these services throughout the MARC area under the MARC umbrella, and it's a little confusing the way this is laid out. So we pay them 1.5% of the fee we collect.
Okay, so it's not charged.
It's not charged to you. It's a little,
Okay.
we're going to update the documents to clarify that. But yeah, we pay that MARC fee out of what we collect, so there's no additional fee.
Okay, that's kind of confusing in here.
Yes, I agree.
Also notice that there is FIT software. Is that something that the city has to purchase?
So the
and
way
have
that
available?
the way this agreement is put together is that it's all optional for the city. That's the benefit of the shared services for the whole metropolitan area for communities who choose to come. So, number one, there's no retainer fee, there's no ongoing cost at all. These fees apply if you call us and you say, we have this church edition that's going on we'd like for you to handle. We'll talk about the fees that are laid out here and clarify what that is beforehand.
All right, well, that makes a lot more sense, because
Right.
I thought.
And,
we're paying-
and this includes all of our range of services, and
Okay.
you can choose to opt in or not. FIT is our permitting software. Some communities don't have permitting software, so it's a affordable alternative for them to utilize. Others, we work within your existing systems, and we work for your staff.
Okay, so you can work within our existing
Yes.
permit system
Yes.
to do that, so we don't have to buy any of that? Okay.
That's correct.
That makes a lot more sense.
In fact, when we switched over a little over a year ago to Encode, our new software, which is web-based. It would actually allow us to give them access to our permitting software so they could tie into our existing system.
Okay. That makes a lot more sense, because I thought we were paying all these percentages to Mid-America Regional Council too for this, so.
I apologize for that confusion.
That's okay. That's all right. I read everything, sorry.
Mr. Kramer. Ms. Emerson.
What are the setup fees? I see, like she said, the $4,000 software fee.
That's if you would choose to use our software. That's what it costs for us to set you up in the system.
Okay, and then there's no setup fees, it's just what we want to use you for?
That's right. That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Benson, anything else you'd like to add? Mr. Scoot, anything you'd like to answer?
Just one last thing. I have visited with a couple other communities that they have contracts with and got glowing endorsements for their services that they provide, so.
All right, is there action requested of this board? Mr. Ertz?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Ertz has a motion to approve, second by Mr. Kramer, I believe it was. Further discussion before we vote? Call the vote, please.
Alderman Ertz,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderman Jason Green,
Yes.
Alderman Van Buskirk,
Yes.
Alderman Josh Green,
Yes.
Alderman Azier,
Yes.
Alderman Mock,
Yes.
Alderman Melson,
Yes.
Alderman Emerson.
Yes.
Kurt, thank you for coming to help.
Thank you all.
Mayor Bauer, one more thing. Kurt Skoog and I had an opportunity to sit next to each other in one of the event over the weekend. And just for the record, he is a council member with City of Overland Park. And, I'm sure he will go back to his community and say what a great community he visited and what a professional Board of Aldermen, Mayor, and city
I'll
staff
be
is.
writing that up for him, in fact, actually. Thanks, Kurt.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Van Buskirk.
On the next item, Bill 637815, after receiving counsel from our city attorney regarding a possible or perceived conflict of interest with my employment, I will recuse myself from discussion and action regarding this bill.
Thank you, Mr. Van Buskirk. And as gentleman addresses, this is a public hearing to consider a conditional use permit for property located at 9400 and 9600 East 53rd Place. I ask the clerk to perform the first reading at this time.
An ordinance granting a conditional use permit subject to certain conditions to operate a vehicle rental business on property located at 9400 and 9600 East 53rd Place in Raytown, Missouri.
Mr. Benson, anything you'd like to add, sir?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Emmanuel Barger is the applicant who is seeking approval of this conditional use permit application. He is proposing or requesting this approval to allow him to operate a U-Haul rental business at 9400 and 9600 East 53rd Place. Though those are two addresses, they're actually two buildings on the same property. We're talking about one single property with two buildings on it. The property is owned by Mr. Neil Clevenger. Mr. Barger would be leasing the property from Mr. Clevenger to operate the business. He has submitted a plot plan indicating the location of the buildings and parking spaces, which are included in your packet. This has come before the Planning and Zoning Commission. At the conclusion of their public hearing, they did, by a vote of 7 in favor and 0 against, recommend approval of this application subject to 3 conditions. 1, that the vehicle rental business shall be operated on the premises and may not move to a different location or expand to a different property without first obtaining approval in accordance with the provisions for conditional use permits as specified by our city code. 2, rental vehicles shall be parked at locations as indicated on the site plan submitted by the applicant. And 3, compliance with all applicable ordinances and codes of the city of Raytown, the state of Missouri, and the United States. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. Mr. Barker is here as well. I believe has some information.
Having opened
to share
the
with
public
you.
hearing already, I'm going to ask if there's any additional ex parte communication or any ex parte communication that any member of this board may have on this matter. Okay, none. All right, you want to turn it over to the applicant now then? All right. Would the applicant like to come forward and make a presentation? We'll need your name and address, please.
Good evening, Board of Aldermen. My name is Emmanuel Barger, property 9400, 9600 East 53rd Place, Raytown, Missouri, 64133. The characteristics of the neighborhood is they have, excuse me, a waterworks park, also a gas station, a service station, as well as a car wash. We will be utilizing the car wash as well as the gas station for servicing the vehicles, the car wash to actually clean the vehicles. In no way we will be in competing with any businesses. We will actually bring business to other businesses. We will also be hiring newcomers, first-time job seekers, things of that nature out of the Raytown area. The property has been vacant for about 2 months before this proposal. And it would be harder for him to actually try to get someone else to lease the property and go through the zoning. It would take more time. So the type of vehicles that we will have there will be between 10-foot to 20-foot trucks. They will all be parked to the rear. I was also told that we have to get the parking lines up to code, which I've took pictures of if you need to see it. We will be pretty much just a leasing company for the city of Raytown. It would make the commute closer than any other U-Haul company here or in the surrounding areas. And we will be a full U-Haul company. So we will also do packing, moving, transport. We would do the whole 9. I'm sorry, that's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any questions the board may have for the applicant before he gets what? Mr. Ernst?
Yes, you said you brought some pictures of the lot. Could I,
Yes.
do you care if we take a look at those?
Sure.
We could hand them around up here?
Mayor?
Yeah.
Mayor?
We need
What? No, go ahead, that's fine. While he's handing those
We'll get
to
it
Alderman
together, right.
Rhodes, I'd like to enter those as Exhibit H.
That's what I was thinking. Exhibit H is what those will be called.
Okay. Yeah, as I thought, you're going to bring it up to standard so that obviously it's,
Well, the lines were actually not visible at all. As you can see in the pictures, I repainted them.
okay. Is there any problems with that? My understanding is that building goes down quite a ways. Are you going to keep you're keeping all the structures there, and this is just the area for vehicles will be, hopefully they'll all be rented out most of the time.
That's correct.
That's all I had. I just want to take a look since you brought it.
Mr. Mock? I'm sorry. Go
If I
ahead,
could
Mr.
add
Ernst.
to that, the depth of that building, because it used to be a pump building, under construction code, fire code, he cannot use the lower level of that where customers, he could use it for storage, but of whatever would fit there, but customers are not allowed to go down there under the fire code because there's only one way in and one way out, so.
Mr. Mock?
How many trucks are you proposing onto the lot?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
How
you.
many is it rental trucks?
Yes.
How many rental trucks are you proposing putting onto the lot?
There's a total of 5 spaces to the rear and 1 space alongside of the building, so a total of 6.
I think I read 3 in one. Okay, come back on that. You have 6 parking spaces?
I believe there's 5 in the front. Well, at first, we couldn't see the lines. The lines weren't visible. And when I went over there to repaint them, there were only 5 spaces in the front and 1 space to the side of the building. But two of those spaces will be taken by trailers. So it wouldn't actually be a vehicle, but it has wheels.
What about the brush? Is that okay to ask that question, John? About the brush in the creek right there, would that be, is that?
Are you talking along the creek?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that was a question raised at the Planning Commission, a concern raised or asked about vehicles coming down the hill from Super Splash
Yeah,
and vehicles
good site.
exiting. Since the Planning Commission meeting, I've spoke with Kevin Bogie, as well as the applicant. The applicant and Mr. Bogie will get together once leaves or plants start growing and where you can see, get a better, clearer clearer understanding of what needs to be trimmed back and which will occur this spring. Mr. Bogie was very receptive to that idea because he views that it will increase the visibility of Super Splash as well.
Yeah,
so.
that'd be great.
Yeah, so they're both on the same page. It's just a matter of waiting until the warmer weather arrives and the leaves start coming out to where they can get an idea
So
on the
y'all all
visibility.
get cleaned up right now.
Yes, yep.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Belson?
Where will the customers be parking?
I took pictures of the front where you see the handicap spaces. There's about 6 parking spaces there.
Okay, so that's the customer parking?
That's correct.
On that front side?
That's correct.
And then around the back is where you're saying that you have the 5 spaces?
Yes,
And then the one on the
building-
side?
Yes, building 9400.
Okay, all right, gotcha. All right, you also said that you're going to have your trucks over at that location, but also using the car wash for just cleaning the trucks?
That's correct.
Okay. And then, and I'm not sure that they have this problem that much, but at Super Splash, are there any type of traffic congestion that we see with going up to Super Splash and them coming out with trucks and any of that?
Staff, I met with our Public Works Director to discuss that, as well as Mr. Bogie, and neither, the three of us, none of us foresee a problem. There hasn't been a problem at that, with other businesses at this location creating traffic congestion between the two uses, Super Splash as well as, in the case of this use. This is
Right.
a very low traffic generator.
Right.
Particularly in comparison to some other uses that have been on that property previously.
Right.
So we don't foresee, it hasn't been a problem in the past, and therefore we don't foresee that being a problem in the future.
Okay, great. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Ertz? Mr. Mock? You guys are killing me here. All right. Yeah, you use them. A couple more months, we'll have these lights figured out over here. Anything else you'd like to add, sir?
That's pretty much it. We would definitely, the hiring is a major thing. As I stated, it would give the first time employees, I'm sorry, it would give the first time job seekers a good start. It would give them a chance to build a resume within the Raytown area. And we will be close, as far as the distance between where we will be located to where the next facility is to actually lease the U-Haul and or storage.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You can go ahead and be seated. I'm going
Okay.
to call the public up at this time. I will, at this time, ask if anyone in the public would like to address this matter to this board, and I do have a list of names, and I'm going to start with Mr. Nelson Mann. Different subject. Are you guys all for the next one? Okay, great. Should have clarified that earlier. I'm sorry. Comments from the peanut gallery here, Mr. Mock? Okay, all right. Mr. Kanabe's sitting here thinking this is a pretty calm meeting compared with the ones that we used to have when I was up here. Right?
No comment right now.
No comment. All right. Would anyone in the audience like to address this particular matter with this board at this particular time? Okay, none appearing. We'll go back. John, anything else you'd like to add, sir?
Nothing further.
All right, this is the first reading on this public hearing. We are now into board discussion. We have several actions. We can continue to discuss this. We can ask questions of the applicant or of staff, or we can offer a motion to continue this public hearing to a date certain of March 17th. Well, I'm actually not going to use the lights because Mr. Green's using the lights. Mr. Green.
Thanks. I make a motion to continue debate on March 17th.
That's what he just said, right?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
All right. And I'm going to, out of goodness of my heart, give the second to Mr. Azier. So we've got a motion and a second to continue this public hearing to a date certain of March 17th. Any discussion on that? Call a vote on that, please.
Alderman Josh Green,
Yes.
Alderman Azier,
Yes.
Alderman Kramer,
Yes.
Alderman Jason Green,
Yes.
Alderman Emerson,
Yes.
Alderman Melson. Yes. Alderman Ertz,
Yes.
Alderman Mock,
Yes.
Now we'll move to item 6A, which is a public hearing to consider a text amendment to the architectural design standards specified in the Crescent Creek Design Manual. I ask the clerk to perform the first reading on this matter, please.
An ordinance granting an amendment to the architectural design standards specified in the Crescent Creek Design Manual adopted by ordinance number 4952-04 on March 16, 2004.
We'll open this public hearing at this time and ask if any of the board members have any ex parte communication they'd like to share on this particular subject. None appearing. Mr. Benson, introduction of application, please.
Thank you. The Crescent Creek subdivision was approved by the city in 2004, and so I'd like to walk kind of through a timeline of what's occurred following that approval. When it was approved as a planned district zoning project as a traditional neighborhood district or design development rather, or otherwise known as T&D. As part of that T&D development, certain design standards were adopted as proposed by the developer. These adopted standards included an emphasis on design aspects related to emphasis on human scale architecture, emphasizing pedestrian amenities and walkability, porches on the front, porches or stoops on the front of homes, garages recessed and not on the front of homes, but instead off of alleys or where alleys are not available on some of the lots, that they be recessed back or be located behind the homes. Also that there was a variety of residential types such as townhomes as well as single-family detached homes, as well as what would be called cottage homes or a smaller single-family detached home. After approval, the developer at the time, which was Dial Realty, began construction on several single-family homes as well as one townhome building. And they constructed those, and that's basically, with the exception of 2 homes, that's what you see in Crescent Creek today. The 2 homes have been built more recently, were built by a different builder, and are occupied currently. In late 2013, the bank that had, or the owner, the bank had sold Crescent Creek to a new developer. The developer in turn sold it to the current owners of, which is led by Kirk Miles, who is here. The current Kirk represents Crescent Creek Revitalization LLC. And they are seeking this amendment to the architectural design standards, or 2 aspects of the architectural design standards that are specified on page 53 of the design manual that was adopted as part of the zoning for this development. The 2 aspects that are amendments that are proposed relate to regulations that currently state driveways in the front yard are permitted only for lots that do not have alley access and shall be a maximum of 10 feet wide. They're proposing that be changed to driveways in the front yard are permitted only for lots that do not have alley access and shall be a maximum of 20 feet wide. So they're asking for an additional 10 feet of driveway width. The other amendment relates to garage doors. The current regulation states garage doors shall not face a street if alley access is available. Where a garage door faces a street, no more than 9 feet of a garage door shall extend no further than 9 feet beyond the plane of the sidewall of the primary structure on the lot. That forces the garage to be located to the back of the home, in essence. They're proposing or requesting that standard be modified or amended to read as garage doors shall not face a street if alley access is available. Where a garage door faces a street, the following standards shall apply. Not more than 22 feet of the garage, inclusive of the garage door, shall extend beyond the sidewall of the primary structure of the lot, the primary structure on the lot. At the planning commission meeting, they added a second portion to that standard to include the front of the garage shall not extend in front of the front plane of the house, so that the garage does not stick out in front, and that's to maintain the character of the T&D development, that garage doors or garages themselves do not extend out closer to the street than the house itself does. The planning commission, at the conclusion of their public hearing, has voted in favor of these amendments by 7 in favor and 0 against of the amendments that I just read to you. So Kirk Miles, as well as the other folks that have signed up to speak, are here tonight as well to provide further information. I'll defer to them to further explain the reasoning for their application.
All right, so Kirk Miles is the applicant, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Benson before we call the applicant forward? Mr. Miles, would you like to add any comments Mr. Benson may have made, sir?
Good evening. My name's Kirk Miles. My address is 13706 West 76th Circle in Lenexa, Kansas. Mayor Bauer, Mayor Pro Tem Mock, ladies and gentlemen, members of the Board of Aldermen, and city staff, thank you for giving us an opportunity to stand before you this evening to discuss the text amendment that we have requested to the architectural design standards of Crescent Creek. We purchased the land, the raw land and the empty lots within the Crescent Creek development about a year ago. We worked diligently over the last 12 months with our legal counsel and city staff and city attorney, and I must applaud the professionalism and patience of John and Joe as we've worked through a lot of issues, a lot of bureaucracy, not here in the city, but statewide and in the county, and things that had been done, or should I say not done, by the previous developer. But after a year of hard work, we got to the point to where several weeks ago we were able to have a special meeting of the first HOA of Crescent Creek revitalization. And we were able to put in place amended articles, covenants, and bylaws, and are now the declarant, and we're ready to move forward. During this period, we've also spent a great deal of effort and energy in working with the homeowners that live within Crescent Creek, who have experienced many disappointments since 2004. They were promised a lot of things, a lot of different hands have come in, and we really empathize with the people that live in there. So we hope that we can bring some a little bit different attitude and a little bit different effort. I've personally met with every owner. Door to door I went and talked to every owner within Crescent Creek to introduce ourselves. We've worked hard to get the irrigation system repaired and up, turned on the water, got some water down before the winter months so that the trees in the park and some of the grass will hopefully be improved next year. We've increased the mowing, and for the first time in 7 years, they didn't have to shovel their drive or their alleys to get their cars out to go to work. We did that for them as the HOA. So I think we've made some improvements. We're working hard to get the residents behind us, and we know that's going to be difficult because they've been promised a lot of things and not always have those been delivered. We put together a great team, and the people that are going to speak with me are part of my team. They're not public members here to speak, but they're part of our team, Crescent Creek Redevelopment LLC. And at this time, I would like to ask John Wiley, who's a member of our team, to come up and give you some more information. And I'll be glad to come back up later if there are questions.
Welcome, John.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to back up. Mr. Mayor, thank you. Board of Aldermen, city staff. I was on the board of Aldermen when this project came forward, and with Ms. Nelson, Mr. Azier, Gary Knobby. And we remember the presentations and the design, and we voted yes. And for the years that this has been like this, as I drive around my community, I look for things that need to be revitalized or brought back up. I've kind of put my hands in some projects like that around the community. And it was on a chance that I called Mr. Miles and I said, hey, I live in Raytown, and I've got this project, and would you be willing to look at this? And so at my invitation, he came. And I put him together with another Raytown businessman who had bought it. They came together and purchased it. And so here we are. I've since then, myself, become a property owner there after the fact, because Kirk has brought together an entire team. Gary Knobby's on our team. He'll speak in a moment, take care of our marketing. We've got a builder. We've got at least a couple builders ready to come in and put sticks in the ground right now. Gary will address that in just a minute, how we're going to come at this and why. Gary's going to get into the specifics of why we're requesting this change, as well as our main oversight of our builders is here to address any architectural things as to why we're going wider. I wanted to bring this up, and then I'm going to yield to Gary. As we listened to the homeowners that are there, consistently, there's been a lack of supporting the standards that were agreed to. Rental issues that shouldn't be in there. There are things that we have to address proactively now that we're a part of the HOA. I am now on the HOA there. One of the things that came up over and over again with the community there is that the streets are congested. People are parking in the streets. It's difficult to navigate the neighborhoods because the houses are closer to the road. the streets feel narrow, and there's not room to park their cars. So they're parking in the streets, and there's, shall we say, parking wars and really bad feelings in the neighborhood among the community. And they're just saying, what can we do as a developer now to come in and relieve some of this congestion out of the street to make their neighborhood feel better and relieve some of this tension? Well, that serves well for us because that's part of what we need to do in order to be able to afford to build homes and sell homes for that will be marketable in Raytown. So we'll be able to solve two problems: a parking problem that the community is complaining about, because if we keep the current standards and keep pushing cars onto the street, it's going to get worse, not better. And so that takes us into the economics, and I'll defer all the economics over to Gary. I just want to say that I'm proud to be part of this. I'm proud that I voted yes to it, and I'm really thrilled that I can be part of a team that finishes this project that is incomplete in Raytown. So thank you for listening. I'll let Gary come up.
Greetings, Mr. Mayor, staff, Aldermen. I really don't regret not being up there anymore. But I do thank you very much for your service, because I know, believe me, I know. This project, John approached me about a year or so ago on it and said, we've got a chance to do something. And John being John, I said, okay, let's sit down and take a real serious look at it. And I'm a Raytown guy. I've lived in Raytown for 55 years and been selling real estate in Raytown for 40-some years. So there's not much about the Raytown market as far as home market that I don't know. There's been a lot of bad. As of 2004, the average price of a Raytown house dropped 37%. So in 2004, if you bought a $100,000 house, by 2008, it was worth $60,000. Thank you very much. That led to a lot of problems with Crescent Creek. There were some other situations that they couldn't get over, and it just went down. A lot of people bought some nice homes. There's some good quality homes in there, but they're sitting in a subdivision that has very, very little hope of regaining any kind of value unless somebody does take it upon themselves to jump in and spend some money and do some things, not knowing if it's going to be positive, not knowing if they're going to make any money on it, but to do something to make this a positive neighborhood. And I applaud these guys behind me because they've taken the bull by the horns. They've gone through, like Kirk said, they've talked to every person who owns property there, every one of them. And all of a sudden, after a year's worth of work, we're the guys wearing the white hats. And we are definitely making progressive steps. The biggest problem we have is you can't build the kind of house that was originally planned for that development and make a profit. As you all know, profit is not a four-letter word. So profit is something that has to be done in every subdivision. I live in a subdivision right now that's barely crawling back out of the same situation. And it's difficult. It is difficult. Raytown has a lot of quality area that could be developed or redeveloped. And I don't have to tell you how logistically located we are, why we're just absolutely primed to every place else in Kansas City. We have the best police, fire, and EMT response in the metro, still do, always will, I think. And we've got so many positive things, but we have to be able to build these houses in there without the constraints that the previous owners have. We're coming to you for I think two things on the agenda right now, but I can guarantee you we will be back up here with some other additional requirements or requests to help us along this road. But it is going to be a phoenix. Right now it is nothing but a pile of dirt and high grass up there, and hasn't been for the last umpteen years. We have some very, very serious plans. We've got some good builders on deck. We've got already 2 or 3 builders ready, like John said, to put sticks in the ground, to start moving couples on the presentation that John made earlier about the dynamics that are changing in Raytown. There are people, and I can tell you right now, people who want to move to Raytown. I've got a lady right now, I've shown her houses in Blue Springs, I've shown her houses in Lee Summit, and I've shown her houses in Raytown. And she wants to move to Raytown. Why? Price point, quality houses, services. Why not? And less taxes. So Raytown has a lot to offer. We really do. And I think we will for years in the future. So, like I say, I'm just kind of laying a little groundwork for, we will be back, I'm sure, asking for some other things, but these are what we're asking for right now. We absolutely have to get this off the ground and get it started. So, any questions?
Ms. Melson?
I have a lot. Imagine that. But one of the things that you said was about the current housing and how it's set up with the alleyways and such like that. Are you looking to build that same type, or we're looking to build something up on the hill part totally different?
We're going to try to, and I don't think it would be fair to the people that live there now to say, okay, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to do something entirely different. What we're trying to do is morph a type of a house that will look something like that,
right,
but it will also be less expensive to build. The biggest thing with the houses that are in there now is there's so much concrete back behind them with the alleyways and the driveways, and plus the congestion. I've looked at 2 or 3 other subdivisions like this, one in North Kansas City, one in Overland Park, and they are still congested. I pulled down to the end of one of them, and I was getting ready to back out, and there were 3 cars in my way. I couldn't even get back out of it for 20 minutes. So, because, I mean, it was kind of a good idea, and it was all pretty and rosy when we saw it, but
well, and that's what
it just did not work.
Well, and that's what I'm saying is that when I walked over there and talked to people and stuff, that's one of the concerns, and concern I had way back on I'm pulling out, somebody's pulling out, and who wins. And so I would rather not see the alleyways in a future development. I understand, and when we did that, that was the name of the game at that time. But it causes a lot of problems. And I understand too, what you're asking for is more that's on this side over here with the row of houses and the way the garages are.
We're asking for the entire development.
Okay. Because I know, and John maybe answered.
I don't think it would be fair just to try to segment it and just do a little here and a little there. I think we need to take a good blanket look at the entire subdivision and do what we can do for all of it.
Even the way the current garages and stuff sit?
Yes.
Okay. I'm kind of excited about this. I've driven by, and I don't know if you did or maybe John did, about the cottage homes, because off of 59th Street there was supposed to be that cul-de-sac of cottage homes. If that's still in the planning stage, that was in the original one. So
like I say,
I look forward to seeing what you guys are going to do with that property, because I think it's sitting there. It can definitely be developed, and it has the opportunity to kind of revitalize that area too. We all know it was great and wonderful and grand openings, and it was beautiful buildings and such, but with the transfer of ownership over time, and then everybody just kind of looked at it and it just kind of went away, it didn't pan out to what we really wanted it to be. And so I look forward to seeing this have a lot of opportunities of which aren't there right now. And I think the people, and that was also expressed in some of the minutes from the individuals that live there, the frustration that they have. There's not an HOA, there's supposed to be, there's a floodplain with the park part in there. And I noticed that y'all were working with Giving Groves, because I've worked with them before. But those are positive things. I mean, it can truly be a positive area, because there is so much space still left there to build on. So, that was more of a speech than my question, but I'll find some more.
Well, that's why we went around and looked, and we talked to all the people who live there, because they made the investment. They put their hard money in there, and now they're kind of stuck. And we wanted to make sure that they knew exactly what we were going to do, what we were trying to. We weren't just in there just to make a buck. We're trying to salvage this subdivision, and we're trying to make a positive impact in Raytown.
Mr. Asia.
I remember the trip we made to Denver.
Yes, sir. It's a fun time, wasn't
it? And I remember how excited we were when we saw these developments actually in place in Denver. And when we were going to build one in Raytown, it was like, hey, this is so huge. It was exciting back in 2004. I do have a couple questions, and I will say 4 years ago, one of my former constituents actually moved there and called me because there were problems. And as you know, you're an alderman, sometimes you get calls from outside your ward, and you respond. So, so Mr. Miles is a developer, is he an owner, is he?
He's one of the spokes. We have he's the owner of it. He's
One of the owners.
He's the responsible owner of the LLC. Yes, that controls it.
And I noticed that in the paperwork here it said that there's 2/3 undeveloped or vacant.
At least, yes.
So that's unbuilt, or there's actually 2/3 that are vacant houses.
No, there's no vacant houses there.
Oh, okay.
It's just undeveloped ground.
Oh, okay. One of the questions I had heard that some of the ground on and part of that development, they found out later after they started that there was too much rock to build on. Is that true?
I don't think so.
They couldn't put basements in them, or? I was just curious because at the time.
I don't think they've done any core drilling or anything, but I don't think we're cognizant of that right now.
Okay.
We don't.
Are you going to have a different builder than they had before?
We're going to have, we've got one builder that's part of our team, and he is going to be interviewing. Let's use that as a word. He's going to be interviewing some of the builders that will be coming into the subdivision. He's a very good quality builder and has a sterling reputation. That's the reason he's a member of the team. And we are trying to, we're not trying to lock anybody out of it. We really want some other new blood, some new builders, somebody that's, that has the same idea that we do. They want to pick it up and they want to make something, make a name for themselves. I built that house right there.
Right.
So
I asked that question because one of the problems at the time was because the builder that participated, local builder, left trash behind and wouldn't carry it off, and that was one of my jobs at the time was he even buried some of the trash. So I just was curious if he'd be back again. Another question: so you are going to stay with the style of structure that you have? I mean, the theme of it.
why don't we let the builder, our builder answer some of that. He may be able to shed a little bit more light.
Are those Victorian houses? I know they're kind of the Archie Bunker style. I don't know what they are for sure.
Yeah, they're kind of the
all
old
look
shotgun
alike.
houses.
Hello, I'm Jim Drolf. I'm one of the builders. Our task is to build economic houses, kind of circling back to John's presentation. And Gary's kind of run some pricing, and we thought that $170,000 should be about the cap for putting houses in there. The other problem that we wanted to address was doing that and the traffic problem. And that's why we have this amendment. We want to put 2-car garages in instead of 1-car garages. That's a big factor why we need the 22 width. And then the economic factor is why we want the garages even with the front of the house. Traditionally, builders put the garage in front of the front door because it's easier to put all the rest of the rooms in the house. As you push that garage back, you add square footage to the house, which adds expense to the house. So we're trying to keep the expense down. The other thing that's part of the traditional neighborhood design are the big porches and a lot of the flare on the exterior trim, if you will. Again, that pushes it over that economic home for Raytown, for Kansas City, for anywhere. So we're going to try to keep the flavor of the subdivision with modern construction. So we're going to do a 2-car garage door instead of a 1-car garage door, but we're going to put carriage doors on the garages to keep that flavor, that kind of charm that's part of the other subdivision. The other thing we'll do is on certain parts of the house, we'll put some cedar shakes in the gables or maybe above the garage in certain places. Again, we're going to be doing some decorative type things to keep the flavor of the subdivision. But the houses are not going to have a porch going all the way across the width of the front of the house. They'll have porches on them, but they're not going to be the big decorative porches like you see in the other part of the subdivision. So we're trying to keep the price economical and profitable at the same time, and that's why we brought the amendment to Raytown, because we thought by adjusting those garages and getting to a two-car garage that would certainly help matters.
That answers my question. I appreciate that. Just one other question. I know there was the original plan, there were guidelines, which included a homeowners group that they had to belong to, and I think also included a clubhouse. Is that all still in place?
Kirk, do you know that? I don't.
Yeah, originally there was a clubhouse and a pool. That's not part of our current plans, and that's based on discussions with the current homeowners. When you start talking about HOA dues right now, we instituted the lowest level we could possibly institute, which is $50 a month. And if you would put a pool and a clubhouse in there, it would probably be 5, 6, 7 times that. And they really don't want that extra burden right now. So it is not in the current plans, the clubhouse and the pool.
Okay, and that, I figured that, so basically you're kind of departing from the original plan, and which is okay. I like what you're doing, I like them. I have no problem with what your requests are. I just want to get a feeling on what's going to happen to the project.
Yeah, you know, really it's going to depend. What we want to do is take some baby steps. You know, we don't want to do a grand plan and head one way and then the market tell us that doesn't work. So we want to do this right. We want to get in there with some quality builders like Jim and some other people that we've talked to, get some structures going. Activity breeds activity. We're hoping that with 2 or 3, 4 spec homes, model homes, that will breed other activity. We'll get a sense of what the market is really telling us then we'll be able to come back and really give you, a much clearer picture of what our designs are there. But we really, are taking it kind of a step-by-step process to make sure that we really determine what the market will allow in there.
Thank you. I will conclude, and I'll just kind of address this towards John and Gary, because I know they remember how excited we were when we built that. And I would just like to at least see it stay in somewhat of a context of what it was meant to be. And I think that includes that homeowners association with the rules and guidelines they have to live by. We'd like to see more neighborhoods that had those. And I would certainly hate to see those dissipate. So that would just be my input.
Yeah, Mr. Uzer, absolutely. And I will tell you the HOA, CID, we had our first meeting. Ms. Melson mentioned the Giving Grove. Again, structures can only do so much. Wood, cement, brass, steel can only do so much for community. Community really comes down to, the leadership and bringing people together and giving them something that is a sense of space, a sense of belonging, and that's where the Giving Grove comes in. Is the Giving Grove, for you that are not familiar, is a not-for-profit that we've done some work with here. They will be coming in with us. We've already got a design. And the Giving Grove will be working with, we'll have to name a couple of stewards. We've already reached out to a couple of the residents that are willing to be stewards and go to training. And it's basically putting a Giving Grove, which is nuts and fruit trees, as well as some community gardens, into the development that would be belong to the community. It would be bringing the community together to grow fruit, nuts. They'd be able to take a portion of that and use it our goal is to use that as a fundraising opportunity for some nonprofits here in the Raytown, Kansas City area. So
I would share one thing, that one of the complaints that I got from homeowner there was that there were at least 2 homes at that time that were bought by multiple families. So even though it was a single family home, he had 2 families living in it because they could afford to go together and buy it. I don't know if that would be against your rules or not, or that's... I don't know how that lays in there, but I'm just throwing it out. That did bother some of the neighbors at the time. Yeah, I'm not aware of a home being owned by multiple owners, but I'm aware of okay, there are some issues with some houses that are being rented and a lot of people in those, and those are things we will address, absolutely. Any other questions for me or any of our
Hang on
team?
1 second, sir. Mr. Mock? Oh, you're just teasing us again, okay. Ms. Melson?
No.
What?
Sir. I forget to say. Kurt, John, Gary, what was your name again?
Kirk.
Thank you.
Oh, Jim.
Yeah, well, thank you, guys. Hey, first, about the amendment of the drives, garages, this and that, talking about getting cars off the streets, this and that, and taking care of this, that's great. That's great. That takes care for our EMS, snow removal, getting through there and everything else too. Our police, getting down those streets and everything else, that does help out a lot. It's great to hear you guys talking about a strong homeowners association again. You know, and bringing the communication to the neighbors, you know, getting the communication out. That is fantastic to hear again about what you're looking at taking care of 59th Street and Raytown Road. You know, it's been sitting there for what, 7 years? Was that right, Gary?
Almost 10.
And it's time, like you say, Kurt, it's time to move forward. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Is that it? All right. Ms. Melson?
I have another one for you. As John alluded to in his presentation about all the ranch-style homes that we have and the Manila whatevers wanting to come here, and the older adults, are you looking to build the type of ranch-style home, or two-story home, or hopefully universal design homes?
We actually have a two-bedroom ranch, and from our experience in the past 2 years, it verified exactly what the presentation was. Our buyers were single, under 35, or they were divorced and over 50. Unbelievable amount of people that were in those two categories buying houses right now. So we developed a floor plan of two-bedroom ranch, big bedrooms, big closets, big bathrooms. To the universal design, no. The universal design can be adopted easily. They're open floor plans, so you're only talking about changing 2 doors in the whole house.
Right.
So it's very minor to do. We're not planning on that, but if somebody comes along, it's easy to do within the existing structure.
And will they have basements?
The two-bedroom one will come without a basement, but we can add a basement if somebody wants to build a house with a basement. We're also going to come in there with a small two-story, a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath, two-story, to try to bring some young couples into the area as well. So we've got a mix there, and we're currently working on a split level, which is kind of a popular house, but they don't blend in with the current subdivision, so we're trying to redesign the front of that to fit in with the rest of the subdivision. But initially, it'll be a 2-bedroom ranch and a 3-bedroom, 2-story.
Great. Thank you very much.
All right, other questions of these gentlemen as the applicants? Do you want to include Mr. Mann as one of the applicant parties as well, or?
I'm their attorney.
Mr. Mann's our counsel, our attorney.
So you'll not be speaking then, sir? Okay, thank you.
Only if needed.
Okay, I got it. Got it. Okay. Ms. Emerson? Mic's off.
I'm very impressed with your professionalism, and I think it'll be a great attribute to the city.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Well, not quite yet. Is it? Yeah. Now, with the applicant having made their presentation, is there anyone else in the audience that would like to address the board in the matter of public comment on this particular item, for or against? Okay, no one else in the audience wishes to speak at this time. Okay, with that, we will go to board discussion, and we have several options in front of us. most apparent being to, in fact, continue to a date certain of March 17th, and we'll put it into board discussion. Mr. Van Buskirk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know when this was approved back in, what'd you say, 2004, 10 years ago, I'm sure it looked like the right thing to do. We've run into that every once in a while with other matters that we face here in the city, and sometimes it's just kind of like going down a wrong road, and all of a sudden you realize it's a dead end, and do you just sit there, or do you turn around and go a different direction? I think you have to go a different direction, and I'm excited about this. I think it will be great if this can develop, if we can get people in there, we can build houses there and develop the rest of that. I'm excited about doing it, and I think we need to allow whatever that takes to make that happen. And so I'm all for it. Thank you.
Mr. Ertz. Date certain of March 17th.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Mock. All right, we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion before we vote on continuation of this to March the 17th? Call the vote, please.
Alderman Ertz?
Yes.
Alderman Mock?
Yes.
Alderman Van Buskirk?
Yes.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Emerson?
Yes.
Alderman Jason Green?
Yes.
Alderman Azier?
Yes.
Alderman Josh Green?
Yes.
Alderman Kramer?
Yes.
Gentlemen, thanks for your presentation. We'll look forward to seeing you at the next Alderman meeting on March 17th. That concludes the items on the agenda to my knowledge, and I think that Ms. Emerson, you had called this week specifically asking if you could make a motion to adjourn.
But I will.
Okay. And Mr. Mock, you wanted the second, but I'm going to give it to Ms. Melson instead. You've got the motion to second adjournment. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, we are out of here.